that labyrinth you were staring at in the video, I went through a whole bunch of Chartres videos, and either there were just little tiny pieces of the labyrinth and no music, somebody talking in the background, or this, which had a nice piece, right? Clair de Lune, but didn't finish the piece of music, which is about 4 minutes long. But I just wanted you to see what that floor looks like. It's a long time now since I walked into that church. I took a train out of Paris. Took about an hour to get to the town of Chartres. It's a lovely medieval town. Streets are this wide. It's wonderful. And they have a river running through it. And it's really more like a canal, and in part of it, it's all closed in with concrete or whatever. But the buildings are right on the edge of the water, and you can sit in a restaurant and look right out at the water. You need reservations, but it's quite beautiful. And it's a nice train ride, too. I was riding third class. You know what, on the French train railway system, third class is like? Wooden bench seats at the very back of the train. Walked up to this beautiful facade, and it is a Gothic church. Gothic cathedrals were built using what is called sacred geometry. When you look at the building, it has 2 towers, one on each corner. So the front section can be divided into 3: tower, middle part, and tower. The tower as you're facing it, the left side, if you lay it down, it goes from the front door to the arch up where the altar is. The other tower, if you lay it down, it goes 28 feet short of the first one. 28 feet. That's a lunar month. There's symbolism in that cycle. And it's incredible what the mathematics that they do and the relationships that are created in the structure. As I walked into the place, then it was a pretty dark church. Now they have cleaned the interior walls, and they're bright, and there's so much more light. But I kind of liked it the old way, where it was pretty dark. But the windows are world famous. They saved them during the war and managed to restore them afterwards, put them back in. Their colors are such intense red and blue. Lots of blue. The church is dedicated to Mary, which her color is blue. And so in the old days, when I was last there in 88, and I said the church was dark, but these windows, wonderful colors, outstanding. Over 10,000 images in the windows that you see inside. Pretty phenomenal. Well, I had heard about this labyrinth. A labyrinth that was begun somewhere around 1194. Begun. And tradition, they currently say that it was first walked in 1201. Well, I had heard about it, and I had to see it. So I walked in, and I'm thinking, well, it's going to be way down front. And I walked in, all I saw were chairs. And I looked down front, and I didn't see it down front. I did what I've heard other people have done. They don't look down. The chairs were covering it. And there are these stones that were laid back in late 1100s that people have been walking since that time. Originally, there were labyrinths built in the major cathedrals, Gothic cathedrals. It was difficult for your average peasant to get to the Holy Land for a pilgrimage. So they'd go to the cathedral, the closest one that had a labyrinth, and they would walk that as a journey into a spiritual center. It was the next best thing, I suppose, that you could do if you couldn't afford the trip. And how remarkable. Some people think that a labyrinth is a maze. It's not a maze. A maze has dead ends and tries to trick you into various paths that don't work. A labyrinth has only one path. Only one. Starts at the outside, and it works its way. Oh, it may be circuitous. The typical Chartres labyrinth you see on the front of your bulletin, it starts down at the bottom, and it looks like you're going right in towards the center. And the next thing you know, you're way out around the edge again. One path that goes all the way to the center, and you take the same path back out. To walk it completely is to go in and spend time in the center, in the rosette, and then bring what you experience there out into the world. It is a diagram of what we call in unity the silence. The process going in is the process of first beginning to relax your mind so that you become open and receptive and responsive. And then as you move into the center, towards the center, you begin to contemplate some thought or idea. Eventually you reach that place where you are in the process of meditation. And from meditation you move very naturally into what we call the silence. The silence is being in that secret place of the Most High, where you don't see things, you don't hear things, there's not you and the other people in the room, there's only God. It is a sense of pure oneness. And then as you begin the process to come back out, it's thanksgiving. Giving thanks for what you have received. Sometimes you don't know what you received until later. But that's all right. There's always a gift. There's always a takeaway when you experience the silence. In the time these were built, there was a mystical tradition in the church. And after many, many years, that gave way to a more intellectual tradition, the intellect and the sciences. And many of the labyrinths were removed because they were part of the mystical tradition. Even the practice of prayer in the church changed from a meditative style, from Lectio Divina, where you read Scripture and you meditate on the Scripture and allow it to reveal itself to you. And in past years, we've worked with Lectio Divina, reading and absorbing Scripture through meditation. That was all reformed, and it became mental prayer and mental contemplation. And then contemplation was finally dropped too. It was dropped because, well, it encouraged people to seek the divine directly. Who knew you weren't supposed to do that? So Christianity not only lost many of its labyrinths, but it lost its mysticism and a great deal of its meaning and power to transform lives, to change our lives. I want to share with you these lovely things. So I'd like you to turn to page 5. Page 5, the invocation. Let us once again remind ourselves, I'm now in the presence of pure being. Together. I am now in the presence of pure being and immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. I acknowledge thy presence and thy power, O blessed Spirit. In thy divine wisdom, now erase my mortal limitations, and from thy pure substance of love, bring into manifestation my world according to thy perfect law. Each day, each week, well, there's going to be material to read. And then for each day of Lent, there's going to be a short page of affirmation and a few comments about the affirmation or about what follows. There's also for each day a quotation that comes from Emma Curtis Hopkins. Remember, Hopkins was the teacher of teachers. She taught practically everyone who's ever been anyone in New Thought. So Charles and Myrtle both were ordained by her. They took her courses for ministry, and they were good friends as well. Her material is, I think, excellent. So the daily instructions are on page 4, and it says to find a time and a place each day where you can be alone and undisturbed. No telephone calls, no TV, no telephone calls. Take it off the hook, or just be away from it. Don't answer it. And I suggest that you sit in a chair that supports you. You can stretch out across the bed if that's what you like. And first start by paying attention to your breathing, not trying to do anything with what you're breathing in and out, but just becoming aware of your breathing. And you can begin to remind yourself, peace, peace. And then with each breath in, peace. And with each breath out, be still. Peace, be still. You can repeat that for several minutes, a couple of minutes. The idea is you want to allow yourself to begin to relax. And until we start to relax, I think we don't realize how much tension we actually hold. I mean, ideally, if we're totally relaxed, we're not aware of the body. It's not screaming at us. Our foot isn't bouncing. We're not moving constantly. I've told you about my twin sister, Cicely, the Jamaican lady who was my absolutely dear friend and sister. She always refers to me as, when she talks to me, she said, "How are you, my brother?" Always. We have the same birthday. When we started sitting next to each other at the beginning of 2 years of ministerial school, Cicely moved a lot. She was just always in motion. And I remember reaching over, touching her shoulder and saying, "Peace, be still." She had lots of energy. But she was an outstanding Unity student and Unity minister. And I wish her the very best still to this day. We often have difficulty being still and letting go. My goodness, if I let go, who's controlling everything? Who's going to hold this whole thing together? The world might crash into something. Maybe the sun won't rise. I don't know why we have such a desire. We have to hold on. Golly, let go. Be still. Some people say, well, Jesus never meditated. Jesus never went into the silence. Not counting what he may have done every day. Remember, he went into the wilderness where he was alone in the silence of his own being, communing with the Father. I wanted to redo a healing piece this year because it seems like a long time since we did Healing Wings. And to build a healing consciousness requires each person to have a conscious awareness of the presence, the power of God, the healing energy of God, the life of God. And you know how you get that? Only through experiencing it in the silence. You can do all kinds of affirmations, but it's not going to take you there. So one of the thoughts after I was face to face with this book again, and I said, this is good, was, we need to build this consciousness if we're going to build a consciousness of healing. That was the foundation of unity in the beginning. And it ought to be now. So I look at this as step one. The next step in the daily instruction is not to enter a meditative state, but to relax the body and the mind so that you are open and receptive. And at that point, read the invocation. To speak the invocation first softly and then silently. To think about it. Think about it, so contemplate it, so you begin to see what message is in that. I mean, I can remember my grandmother, my aunt. They were hardcore Roman Catholics. Grandma prayed in her rocking chair every day. She did novenas and rosary and every meal. It was, bless us, O Lord, for this gift which you're about to receive from thy bounty. Amen. Did you get it? Bless us, O Lord, for these thy gifts which we are about to receive from thy bounty. Notice the difference. You can prattle off the words, and they never touch your mind, never touch your heart. We want to be open and receptive, so as we read, we are taking in the information and making it our own, that it is able to stick to us and become one with us. There's an affirmation then for each day, and I suggest that you speak the affirmation once aloud and twice silently. Martha Judici liked to do affirmations in threes. And I have found, thanks to being introduced to that by Martha, I enjoyed it and have done it myself. I suggest that you write it on a 3x5 card. Why? Well, you can take the book with you, but isn't it much easier to have it in your pocket? Just the affirmation for the day, so that you can reaffirm many times throughout the day. Whenever it comes to mind, boom, do it. You don't usually become one with an idea when you hear it once, or even a few times. There are stories of Charles. He would do affirmations, and sometimes he'd walk through these rooms in this block, and he'd tell the workers, I've affirmed 1,000 times today. Have you ever affirmed 1,000 times? Yes, you have. How many times have you said, I can't do that? It's not possible. I'm not good enough. More than 1,000 times, right? Imagine. Every time you say it, it's grinding down a little bit more until it becomes the Grand Canyon in your consciousness. So cut into habit that it changes your life. Isn't that what the Colorado River does? Running through that canyon? Used to be up at the top. Now it's way down there. Yeah, you have affirmed 1,000 times. And perhaps we need a word for what it is. Negation, instead of affirmation. Done a lot of negations. I'd like you to look to page 6, and there's a quotation, Charles Fillmore, at the top of the page. This will be the first slide, Chris. This is from Charles, from Adam's Smashing Power of Mind. The spiritual man is clothed by the aspirations, the thoughts, and the acts of the natural or physical man. It is here, in this realm of so-called matter, that character is formed by faith, prayer, meditation, and inward resolutions. Man identifies himself with the spiritual man and forms in both mind and body the things affirmed. So, to bring forth that spiritual man, part of the process is affirmation, building up these ideas. The other part of the process is the meditation, where you get it directly from the source. When Charles was first working with all of this stuff that was new to him, he tried to read all kinds of things to get directions and information about consciousness, spiritual awareness. And finally he said, amidst all this babble, I am going to headquarters. And that's where we should go. To the source, and not just to a book or to somebody else. Tell me how to do this thing. Tell me what this meditation's all about. Go to the source. Go to the source, just like Charles did. So Ash Wednesday, the material by Emma Curtis is her quotation under the first day, Ash Wednesday. The first lesson finds out what your mind is seeking and names it. Can you name now just exactly what your mind is seeking? And my comments begin this Lenten season by focusing your attention on what you are seeking, what you desire to accomplish during these 40 days. If you look deeply into your own soul, you will find that you do not want outer things. What you deeply desire is an experience, a greater expression of something. Discover what it is. I seek a greater awareness or experience of, and then there's a line. After you have had revealed that to yourself, you can write that down. But this would have been for last Wednesday's affirmation. So the affirmation at the bottom of page 6, that affirmation is, I listen with my whole being to the inner voice of my soul to hear and declare my intention for this holy time of spiritual growth and revelation. Together, I listen with my whole being to the inner voice of my soul to hear and declare my intention for this holy time of spiritual growth and revelation. And now speak it silently. And speak it silently once again. You listen with your whole being to the inner voice of your soul to hear and to declare your intention for this holy time of spiritual growth and revelation. Amen. That was for Wednesday. Thursday, you can read the material at home, since I couldn't give it to you last Sunday because we had snow. But the affirmation is at the bottom. There is a good for me, and I ought to have it. God is my good. My good is my God. Together, there is a good for me, and I ought to have it. God is my good. My good is my God. And the German word for good is gut, from which we derive God as is good. Yeah. And Friday's affirmation, there's a good for me, and that good is life, freedom, joy, and love. God is the good I seek, because God is my source of all life, freedom, joy, and love. Together, there's a good for me, and that good is life, freedom, joy, and love. God is the good I seek, because God is my source of all life, freedom, joy, and love. And the next one is for this past Saturday. Together, I am thankful that the good of God not only blesses me, but also everyone in my world. Yes, And now the second part, the labyrinth. I'm going to skip that quotation, Chris, from Critchlow. The labyrinth is a spiritual aid to meditation. It's been called a divine imprint. It's believed to be a product of what is called the collective unconscious. And we do not know the origin of it, of the design. We don't know how they actually work, but they do. I've heard electrical engineers say that we don't know what electricity is. We kind of know how it works. But what is it? We do know that these sacred designs called labyrinths are found in practically all the religions of the world. You know, if we find a passage in the Gospels, in more than one Gospel, it starts to amplify how important we think it is. If something's found in practically all the religions of the world, and maybe I could even say all the religions of the world in some way. The Tibetans do sand paintings. They call them mandalas, but that's a labyrinth, a design you can follow. And it's constructed on some sacred principles. We have found labyrinths as far back that are as old as 4,000 plus years. So it's a very important part of the collective unconsciousness of this world. In Unity, we talk about meditation, we call it the silence. And the silence is the process as well as the state itself of communion with God or the source. Consciousness of the presence and power of God. Jesus said, go into the closet, your closet. He said, go into the closet and shut the door. That's meditation. That's turning within and not looking out here. That is going to the source instead of running around and saying, tell me what to do. What do I need to do here? What's going on in my life? We pay doctors for those answers. We pay people for those answers. We buy books to try and get those answers. It's free to go to the source. And what does the source know? All. Absolutely all. Omnipresent at all points. Omniscience, all knowledge at all points. And omnipotence, all power, all knowledge at all points. The process of meditation and unity has been set down in 5 steps. And here are the 5 steps. It's on page 15 in your book. Beginning with relaxation, the body and the mind. Relax your body, you begin to relax your mind. And then you concentrate on something, because you cannot keep a blank mind. You can't. If you try, pretty soon there'll be all kinds of jumping monkeys in there. You'll be listening to television commercials in your head. All of a sudden you'll start thinking, oh, I saw this wonderful thing. I wonder if I'm going to buy that I saw on the shopping channel. All kinds of things will pop in your head. You need to give your conscious mind something to keep it busy. So you concentrate on that. And pretty soon you move into that place where you're in a different state of awareness, and we call that meditation. Not every time will you go to where you reach that state of the silence where you and the Father are one. But that's how you get there. And then out of the silence comes thanksgiving. That's the process. So over the weeks, we're going to do each of these sections. So relaxation, that's the first step. All efforts towards meditating, towards entering the silence without relaxation will fail. Because with the tension, your mind's wrapped up with something else. You're not open. You're busy. To relax the body, first you must calm the mind. And that's what we will begin to do. Sometimes peace, let go. Peace, be still. Sometimes you have to crinkle up your forehead and then let it go. Sometimes it helps to clench a muscle and then release it, and release it fully. Whatever it takes, and there's information and material in here. So tomorrow, you begin with what's on page 19. On page 19, the Emma Curtis Hopkins quote is, "God works in truth." In my commentary, we all have times when we feel stuck, frustrated, and confused. If you remember that God works in truth, it is time to ask yourself what the untruth or lie is that is lurking in the background in your thoughts or beliefs. Perhaps you sometimes tell yourself, if I'm generous enough, they will like me. When I have some extra time, I'll start meditating. I could have said as soon as I get around to it, but Jackie gave me one 2 weeks ago, so I have around to it, so I have no excuse. Yeah. I'll forgive when they change. Really? Lies such as these keep you from drawing upon the power to create a more positive life experience. They confine you to the level of fixing things instead of revealing new and greater good. Which would you rather do? Just keep fixing things? Or be open and see and experience new good? So slide number 6. Today I begin to tell myself the truth only. I no longer choose to be bound by the limitations of my family or my past or my experience. I seek the truth, and the truth sets me free. Together? Today I begin to tell myself the truth only. I no longer choose to be bound by the limitations of my family or my past or my experience. I seek the truth, and the truth sets me free. Notice it doesn't say what you believe sets you free. Jesus said the truth will set you free. We have a lot of beliefs, a lot of opinions, but it's only truth, reality about you, God, and the universe that sets you free.